Instructional coaches are really important in providing professional development for teachers in terms of that, in terms of these new curriculum initiatives. Mm-hmm. So can you speak to what an instructional coach is and what value they really bring to our organization?
Yeah, good question. So an instructional coach is someone who has been able to demonstrate over a number of years that they're, I guess I want to say a master teacher, because we don't really have that sort of term, but they're confident and skilled enough. They've had a variety of experience at different grade levels. They are comfortable with math, they're comfortable with literacy approaches, they're comfortable with kind of classroom routines and expectations. And for us in our district, they have been with us for, I'd say, at least 3 to 5 years, some much longer. So there's some institutional history in just knowing where we've been, where we want to go. And so there's some comfort with their colleagues at the different grade levels, and then also with us as leaders in the district. And so their day is spread across the district, working mostly K, just a little bit pre-K, but mostly K through 8. And so, they model lessons in classrooms, they meet with teachers to reflect on those lessons, they meet with principals to talk about what they're working on in a classroom, answering questions there. They're researching, they're putting together materials that a classroom teacher might need. They're inventorying things, they're considering what it is we might need to order and putting together kind of a 3 to 5 year plan of where we might go with a certain subject area. So their role is completely focused on curriculum instruction and assessment. There are times they jump in and have to provide a level of support that isn't really put in their calendar in specific ways, like if they're working with a specific teacher. Sometimes there are moments where someone has to go on a leave, or there's an immediate need in a classroom that kind of overtakes someone's schedule, so they're also there to help provide a level of support for the educator. And they also spend a lot of time looking at data and student progress and are revising kind of their plans to work with teachers as they're seeing the outcomes from students. So that's kind of their role. I think you asked about like the vision.
Well, let me jump in here and then maybe
Thank you.
You can address that. So as you know, we have struggled with staff retention over the years, like every district, recruitment, and that's been an ongoing issue again for many districts in the state, many districts across the country. We have a much younger workforce, much less experienced workforce, and so part, and I wish, I hope you can speak to this, but part, I think, of the vision is to help provide our workforce with the necessary tools. And previously, we would send teachers out to conferences to get that professional development and new learning. And now we're trying to support them from within. And so how does that help improve student instruction?
Yeah, great point. I'd say it's been vital, pretty instrumental to our ability to see certain initiatives continue beyond just infancy stages of first year of implementation, to have people in our system that when we have new staff are able to immediately provide professional development over the summer. I think this past year was the second year, I believe, that anyone who had been a hire from the previous school year, we would provide them with compensation to work with these instructional coaches who were providing different levels of professional development, from someone who was very new to someone who had been with us for 30 years. And so it allows an opportunity to get to form a relationship without students present in kind of a low stress atmosphere, but then really start to get your head around what do the first couple weeks look like, how do you make it through the first month, because we tend to have a release day in October where we meet as grade teams for an entire day of professional development. So those instructional coaches, and then this year we have for the first time an MTSS coordinator who's been super helpful in that role of supporting teachers, have really helped us with turnover. And then, not only that turnover, but there's a lot of research out there about like if you make it 5 years in education, then you'll make it. Those first 2 years can feel like a tidal wave, and so you survive those. And then it's how do you get from year 3 to 5 to be like you can make it. So we've also talked a lot about levels of support for educators, which in turn improve instruction in the classroom, and then ultimately the outcomes that we look at, whether it's standardized testing through the current VT cap, or if it's STAR 360, which is our internal measure, or Power School grades, whatever that might be. And I'd say also the instructional coaches have been tremendous about connecting with Castleton University specifically, and they try as frequently as they can to become a part of the teacher preparation program there, and talking about the levels of support we provide for newer educators, so that if someone was considering an opening in our district, that they would feel like they already had a face that was familiar, and that they knew that we were here to support them and we weren't going to let someone just kind of flounder. In fact, never mind on the recording, the call over the radio. Kristen Whitman, who's our MTSS coordinator, she had been a coach, instructional coach, she had been a teacher for us for a number of years before that.
Let me back up, what does MTSS stand for?
Acronyms, right? Don't use
Yes.
them. Well, even the word multi-tiered system of support is kind of clunky.
Kind of heavy, yeah. So it's simplistic form, what is a multi-tiered system of support?
So the system of support is about making certain that we have identified different strategies to work with different groups of students that will allow them to get closer to the expected learning at a grade level. And so her role in leading that for us is she works very closely with myself and our Director of Student Support Services, Chris Benway, and we're trying to understand, develop, refine those levels of supports for students as they move from what happens in classrooms with a classroom teacher to then potentially having some support from what we call an academic interventionist or a behavioral interventionist, before then possibly needing to receive services from a special educator. And so there's a lot that happens in those layers of support, in that system of supports. And so she's really helping us, as I said, refine, develop those as we move throughout the school year. So she, back to her, in her role, not only doing that job, but having been an instructional coach, and then supporting new staff as they're hired, and then potentially recruiting staff that would work for us as they graduate from Castleton University. She and Lisa Cacciatore, our communications coordinator, have developed and then captured a series of shares by teachers we have in our first 3 to 5 years, I believe, and they shared their experiences with people that are currently student teaching, and again, that was that idea of trying to recruit some folks and then have them see different faces, not just a coach. But she was instrumental in getting that kind of coordinated. So back to your original question about retaining, turnover, they're involved in making certain that that transition from wherever it is you're coming from to Slate Valley is as smooth as it can be. And In terms of professional development, as you said, in years past, we used to hire consultants to come work with us or send people off to training. This model allows us to control the training, recognizing where the organization is, how we can provide kind of a differentiated level of support for our educators. It allows us to have more than one person kind of consulting, so more people can work across our system. They get to collaborate as a team together with me, so we get to refine things, and so I think it allows for greater support, and I think it allows for us to be more responsive to our educators' needs. And so fortunate, I think, when you were in my role, there had been different levels of coaches as well, so there's been a history and, again, an institutional knowledge of these roles, which is helpful for someone who came into the role 7 years ago.
Absolutely. So here's a big question. So what is curriculum, and who gets to decide what is taught in the classroom?
Okay. So curriculum is really, as we've come to define it, what you want students to know, understand, and be able to do at specific grade levels, and it's written down, and then it's supposed to be what you see as taught. And so the instruction part comes through with how that experience is created for students. So the curriculum, I mean, you can buy curriculum. So we have, from items that have been purchased, for example, our math curriculum I mentioned earlier for the elementary grades is called Bridges. It comes in a program. The instructional strategies are kind of baked within that, but yet we still have to navigate it when students are at different levels, so there's some nuanced efforts there. Middle and high school, we use something called eMath Learning, which is an online tool that has a series of worksheets and online lessons, and so that is kind of what can be used, but we still pull out, like, what do we want students to know for vocabulary in 9th grade as it relates to math? What do we really want them to be able to take away about the word proportions? And then what do they need to demonstrate around proportions? So it looks a little different across our system at different grade levels, different content areas. Who decides it? There's the educational quality standards, which we adhere to, which are broad, but yet provide guardrails, I guess. They make certain in social studies, and then in science and math, we have kind of parameters with which to work in. And then nationally, we have the Common Core state standards we use in literacy, so reading, writing, in math, and then the next generation science standards for science, and then social studies, they're called the C3, and the C, civic, I can't remember what the C stands for exactly. And so those, again, provide kind of topics, and then we get to kind of navigate those locally.
And that all falls, too, under the umbrella of the graduation standards, or the graduation requirements that are set by our school board.
Yep, right.
And so then you take those graduation requirements and the standards, and you work with the teachers to create a curriculum that addresses those, is my understanding.
Yep.
Thank you, Casey, for being with us today. I certainly feel like we could have talked for hours on this topic. Tune in next time, where we will chat with the Director of Operations, Chris Cole, about the exciting renovations at the Fairhaven Union Middle and High School. If you have any ideas for future topics, please email Lisa Cacciatore at lcacciatore@svuvt.org. Thank you for joining us, and until next time.